to touch on one other thing. So
Please.
this thing of values, you've
Yeah,
done
please.
for this, and so I've been to a lot of different communities, and there's obviously a lot out there, and there's different levels of development, and they're all in like phases of experimentation. But there's a lot of interpersonal conflict that you can observe, and hopefully not get sucked into while you're there, and hopefully stay the observer. But there's a lot of conflict, and I think that stems from this understanding of the I, we, all phases of development. So if we can develop, I think, incrementally, because I think what happened is many people, maybe they had a developed I and then they jumped right into these communities, and then it wasn't very harmonious because they didn't develop the we. And it's also possible maybe they didn't even develop the I. But I think it's important that we develop the I, then we develop the we through partnership or also friendship, right? And develop that, strengthen your we, and then move into these larger groups. And I think that's a more cohesive evolution that will lead to more harmony. Because if we can go deep within ourselves and then bring that depth into our relationship and then bring it into the larger group. So I think this thing of developing a core values and then finding or uh, aligning yourself with a partner or friends who are willing to uphold those values with you, and becoming that kind of like support for each other in upholding those values and relating through those values through the world, and developing a strong we, and be like, I value this, we value this. The we is stronger than the I when they're both developed. When the I's are both developed, when I and I come together as we, they're much stronger than just I. And then when I and I and I and I and I, the whole community, the all comes together under values, this is when big shifts happen in the world, when we uphold strong values together.
On a practical like scenario, I'm always thinking like, all right, well, step one, right? So would you say like, hey, I understand my values. I'd find maybe another person who have the same values, and then what do we do from there?
You engage in a relationship and you go deep, and you see the tendency to run away from it, or whatever your strategy is with relationship. We all have different strategies, and go deep into it and face the challenges. And this is like divine partnership, right? And it can be applied to friendship as well, but in partnership, it brings up a lot of other stuff. So it's like divine partnership is like you're committed to that person on a soul level for the growth and development of their soul. And so you're together upholding these values and also moving through whatever is not like aligned within you. And it's not an easy thing. At least my experience, you get kind of eaten alive, but you can be like, whoa, like this is amazing. This person's like seeing so much that I haven't been able to see. And you can help work with that. So I think it's through going deep into relationships. And I think, at least, for me, but for many people, I think is very challenging. But I think that's really the avenue towards these communities really developing out, is to go deep and move through challenges. And even, I've explored, because I've done a lot of traveling and I want to like hang out with different people and this kind of thing. But at that level, you only get so deep with the people you're around. And so if you commit to being with someone longer, then there's the opportunity to go, a lot deeper. But it's more painful in that way, because the closer we get to people, the better we are at hurting them.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And how about like buddies? Like me and your buddies. I got a couple buddies that are having the same values. I'm obviously not gonna get in like a relationship with my buddies. Well, what would you say? Is it more about like working on a project together, and then now you're in like a business relationship or a project relationship?
Yeah,
And I'm asking just because that really resonated to the fact of like, hey, like if we're gonna bring, if we're actually gonna make some change in a positive way for future generations and our children, we need to identify values, find others that have that values, create a we relationship until it becomes the all.
so this could possibly be an ideal, but it seems realistic enough. And I think the avenue that that goes to, that you're speaking to, at least from like a male level,
Yeah.
male kind of friendship,
Yeah.
it stepping more into that kind of divine masculine role. And I think more casting that stone, brother, casting that stone from a place of love. But I would say
Or like keeping your friend in check.
keeping them in check and
Ooh.
in a way, I think better than even keeping it in check is inviting the feedback. I think that takes even more courage.
Oh, yeah, man.
They have them show you their shadow, but not wait for them to cast that stone, but say, "Hey, please show me." And I think in that way, iron sharpens iron, and we can say, "Okay, we have these values, but like this isn't happening because I have this shadow, and this isn't happening because you have this shadow, and then how can we move through this together?" And this is where I think, and that's intimate, right? That is a form of intimacy
Intimacy,
or
honesty,
and like
confrontation almost.
confrontation. Yeah. So this, I think, is the real thing, going deep into relationships, right? And it's not an easy thing. That's why it's not happening for many people. But I think that's where, at least in my own life, something I'm exploring is like relationship as this huge tool and catalyst for growth opportunities. And also observing if I jump around from person to person or place to place, like I can only, there's a lot of drawbacks to that. And I love traveling and I love meeting new people and it's great. But now it's like I'm kind of getting to a phase in my life where it's like part of me really wants this like deeper connection, this deeper growth, this more rooted stability. Because I've noticed if I stay in one place for, I can get a lot more done. I can be more productive, more creative. So at least in my own life, the phase I'm in, just going deeper and deeper into the experience, and it's challenging, man, but it's beautiful at the same time because the deeper we go into that, and the cool thing too about this, like this courage with the feedback thing, like that's a quality, right? So we begin to cultivate the quality of like asking for this feedback that's very scary and challenging to do, and having the courage to receive that feedback, but also for the other person to have the courage to actually say to that thing. Because we might not want to be like, well, maybe they don't want to hear this thing. And so that kind of relationship at first is really scary. It's like anything. It's like doing that thing you've been procrastinating on. It's really hard at first. You do it a couple times, it becomes more natural. You start to do it. That becomes a new way of being. And then you're relating. You're like, you're doing stuff with your homies, and then something goes down, and you're like, instantly, you're like, was there something I was doing there? Like, I don't know. I kind of, and they're like, oh, well, actually, like, and then you're like, ah, yeah, okay, okay. And then you're like, dap them up. It's like your homies.
Yeah.
This is like, yeah, iron sharpens iron. So I think that's how that correlates to the friendship level. I guess that could work with women as well. Speaking
Oh
of,
no, that's fire. No, I love that because I don't do that a lot myself. So because I'm still growing and developing that confrontational aspect of myself.
yeah, me as well, me as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.